Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Dira Banachari. Jamuna Dira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Dira Banachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, Nitai Gora. Nitai Gora Premanandi Ki Jai. Namaste Saraswati. So we will start off, we will continue today reading and understanding the 6 fundamental assumptions of modern science. Did you do your homework? No. Is it on your back? Is it on your back? Oh, okay. Agastya, did you do your homework? No. Okay. And Advitya? No. Okay. All right, so we'll go over that. But first we'll start with something interesting. There's a famous man, he's actually infamous, Alan Turing. He's the father of modern, you want to know, you know what? Modern what? No. Computers. You've heard it, right? Yeah. Okay, so he says, let's start off on a light note. What does that mean, a light note? This is a form of it's a not quite slang, but he's saying let's start off with a light note. In other words, before he gets into heavy science, he wants to say something that'll cheer you up. Okay, he says, a long time ago, when computers were still new, yes, it was that long ago, when I was at my first academic assignment, so this is in the 1940s, right? The head of the division dealing with computers gave a talk on artificial intelligence for computers. This is like 70 years ago, right? One of the humanities faculty, humanities means people who study, they were teachers of English literature and subjects like that, not science. So humanities are not science. It's human related things like psychology, literature, and English, and so forth. Art, all these subjects. One of the humanities faculty in the audience put a question after the talk. And his question was, would you want your daughter to marry a computer? And this is why he said this would be a light note, it's like a little bit of a joke. And Turing, let's see, who was it? So the head of the division dealing with computers gave this talk on artificial intelligence. So he says, yes, if she loved the computer. He says him, but it's not a him, right? It's the machine. There are examples of people who want to marry robots today. Yeah. So then he says, legend has it, he says, I wasn't there, that he answered yes, if she loved him. Another version of this legend has it. That's, you know what a legend is? Legend. What is it?
It's like sort of like a myth. It's just
Yeah, usually something made up. Not always, but usually. Another version of this legend has it that someone shouted out after the question, why not? His wife did. I mean, he's talking about the man who gave the class on artificial intelligence back in the 1940s. Someone asked him a question, would you want your daughter to marry one? Meaning a computer. So he says, yes, if she loved him. And then someone else shouted out, why not? Why shouldn't he object to his daughter marrying a computer? Because his wife married one. Meaning he's comparing the guy that gave the lecture to a computer. His wife, meaning his wife with which they had this hypothetical daughter, she married a computer, meaning him. He's not a human being, he's actually a computer. Anyway, you didn't get the joke, but that's okay.
The person who is speaking.
Yeah, someone shouts out, why did, of course he says he would be agreeable if his daughter could marry a computer, because his wife married a computer, meaning he's a computer. He's not a real human being, right? Okay. So he says, but there's a theological objection. You know what a theological objection is? Okay, this is a Latin word, theo and logia. Theo and logia. It's made up of two words. So theological means a religious question, objection, religious objection. Theo means religion. Logia means the study of. So this, now he's presenting a religious objection to marrying a computer. Okay? And he says, now this is Turing giving a hypothetical, attributing a hypothetical statement to religious people. He's creating this whole scenario. You know what a hypothetical means? No. You know what hypothetical means? Yeah, it's not real. It's just like I could say, let's assume that Advaita is not a human being; he's a robot. That's a hypothetical statement. Are you a robot, Advaita? You are? Did you say it? No, you're not. So you're not a robot. But if I could make a hypothetical statement, let's assume that Advaita is a robot, but you're not a robot. See? But it's a hypothetical, means it's not a true thing, but we're just saying it for argument's sake. Right? Okay, so the rebuttal to this objection, this theological or this religious objection, what's the objection? The religious man raises an objection. He says, thinking is a function of man's immortal soul. God has given an immortal soul to every man and woman, but not to any other animal or to machines. Hence, no animal or machine can think. Now, this is called a straw man argument. Write this down. Do you have any paper, Krishna? No? You want to write it on your arm or something? Huh? Okay. You have a pen to write it on your arm? You're coming well prepared for the class. At least you came to the class. You want a pen? Oh, you weren't here yesterday? Oh, both of you were not here. He's got a paper. He tore it out of Agastya's book. But Agastya needs the book, doesn't he? Okay, so we had theological, Theological. Here. You can keep that book? You can write on it, yeah. Theological. Did you write it down, Agastya and Advitya? Theological. Theological. Do you know what that means, Paramananda? Yeah. A little bit, yes. Theo means religion. Logia means like the study of religion. Theological. Did you write it down? Theological. You want to spell it out for me? Yeah, it comes from theology. It's adjective, theological. Theological. Can you repeat that, Augustine? Right. Advitya, did you write it down? Huh? You did? Well, let me hear you spell it. Cal. Very good. What?
Is it study of theology or religion? Like, theological equals to is study of theology or religion?
Theo means religion. Logia means study of.
Okay, so religion.
Yeah. It's an adjective, but the noun is theology. 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 So, this is a theological objection. So it's a religious person who makes an objection. And his objection is that thinking is a function of man's immortal soul. God has given an immortal soul to every man and woman, but not to any other animal or to machines. Hence, no animal or machine can think. Is this true? Is this a true statement or a false statement? Thinking is a function of man's immortal soul. God has given an immortal soul to every man and woman, but not to any animal or to machines. Hence, no animal or machine can think. It's not true.
Because machines may not have a soul, but like animals do. They're in the cycle of birth and death.
Animals do, we do have a soul also, right? So, you see, this is the way the scientists and the philosophers, they trick people. This is called a straw man argument. Write this down. Straw. S-T-R-A-W. S-T-R-A-W. And the next word, man, M-A-N. Argument. A-R-G-U-E-M-E-N-T. A-R-G-U-E-M-E-N-T. Did you write that down? Argument? Yeah. So this is a straw man argument. What do you think a straw man argument is? Yes.
Like a stupid defenseless argument, you can't back it up.
No. It's a very clever argument. Advaita, Augusta, you have any idea what a straw man argument is? Yes. Yes. Did you study that in school?
No, I studied it in the class.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so a straw man argument, if a man is made out of straw, you know what straw is, right? If they make a effigy or a man made out of straw, how strong would it be? Yeah, it's very weak. Therefore, it can be torn apart very easily. So these straw man arguments are used very cleverly by scientists and philosophers and people who like to get into arguments. And they set up a straw man argument. Straw is something light, right? So if a man is made out of straw, you could knock him over easily, right? But that's what it means. He sets up this idea that God can only give a soul to human beings, not to animals or to machines. Therefore, animals and machines don't think. Now, he's going to give the rebuttal to the theological objection. What's a theological objection? No, theological objection means he's going to make an owner who he's going to he gives a false statement. God, he says that God does not give a soul to animals, nor will he give it to a computer. Now, do computers have souls? Do animals have souls? So that's false. See, he purposely did that. Now he's going to knock it down. And he's going to knock it down because it's straw man argument. It's a very weak argument. So he's going to knock it down. Now, what he did was, he said, God did not give a soul to animals or to robots. Well, we know robots don't have a soul, but animals do. So he connected the two, the robot and the animal, right? Now he's going to knock down the idea that God is so limited he didn't give souls to animals, although that's not true. And because he's assuming it's true, then he's also going to criticize God by saying he didn't give it to computers either. Okay? It's very cleverly made straw man argument. And it's enough to confuse people, and then he can win his argument. Okay? So now the rebuttal. What is a rebuttal? R-E-B-U-T-T-A-L. R-E-B-U-T-T-A-L. Write it down, Augusta. You know what a rebuttal is? Yes, you refute the other person's argument. You defeat the other person's argument. It's a rebuttal. So he sets up the straw man argument. Straw. No, rebuttal, R-E-B-U-T-T-A-L. Okay, let me repeat this because you weren't here. There's a man called Alan Turing. Who's Alan Turing? You tell me.
He's
The father. And it's a way of speaking. He didn't create computers, but he was one of the early guys that was very instrumental in developing computer technology back in the 1940s and 50s. Right? So he says, a long time ago, when computers were still new, yes, it was that long ago, when I was at my first academic assignment, the head of the division dealing with computers gave a talk on artificial intelligence for computers. One of the humanities faculty, what does that mean? Humanities faculty, Augustia, we just discussed it. What does it mean? You can say huh? Come on, I explain it. Okay, do you know what it means?
So humanities is like basically the study of like human language and stuff.
It's like English, literature, it's art, it's architecture. You study all those subjects, as opposed to math and science and physics and chemistry, right? So, and when you graduate college, you get a Bachelor of Arts degree instead of Bachelor of Science. If you get a Bachelor of Science degree, it means you studied math and science and physics and chemistry and biochemistry and all that. And if you get a Master of Arts, it means you studied English literature, art, and architecture and history and okay. So humanities is all those subjects like history, art, English, French, like that. English literature, French literature. So, he says, now this is Turing speaking. He says, one of the humanities faculty in the audience put a question after the talk. So the head of the Department of Computers in the 1940s or 50s, gives a speech, and after he finishes, one of the humanities, in other words, the opposite discipline. He's not a scientist, right? But he went to the scientist's lecture, and he says, "Would you want your daughter to marry a computer?" Right? It's a hypothetical question. What does it mean, hypothetical? Hypothetical. Did you write it down, Augustine? We discussed this a little bit earlier. Hypo, Hypothetical. Did you write it down? Okay, what does it mean, Augustine? Hypothetical. Look at your brother's spelling. Yes. It's a made up question. It may not be true. Just like one time, a man asked Prabhupada a question. He said, "I want to ask you a hypothetical question, Prabhupada. Let's assume God doesn't exist." Prabhupada said, "Stop immediately." He said, "Wait a minute, I didn't ask the question." "Stop. It's not a question. It's not a rational question." He said, "But I didn't even ask it." "No." He said, "How can you say, let's assume God doesn't exist? That's not rational. You have to ask a rational question. You can't ask an irrational question." Yes? Reasoned. Yeah. Based on reason and logic. Wow, you are 50 minutes late. You're 50 minutes late, Arush. Your dad says it's always your fault because you don't want to wake up. Is that true, or is it your dad that's not waking up? Oh, okay. Okay, so hypothetical question. So the question is, would you want your daughter to marry a computer? So the head of the computer department, the scientist, he said, yes, if she loved him. Now he's assuming that a computer is a him, right? It could be a he, she, right? Or it could be an it. It's an it, actually. It's not a him or her. But, it says, because this guy's a computer scientist, yes, I would let my daughter marry the computer if she loved him. It's all silly stuff, right? So then Turing says, legend has it. What's a legend? Legend. Huh? Over television? Over generation, yeah. It may be true, it may be not true, right? So he says, legend has it. No, so he's implying it's not true. But when you don't know something, you can say, legend has it, and then make it up. Right? He said, legend has it that someone shouted out after the question. So someone is, here the question is, would you let your daughter marry the computer? And then the head of the computer department said, yes, why not? If she loved him, it's not a him, of course. And then legend has it, someone shouted out, why not? Of course he would say that, because his wife is married to a computer. So he's making fun of the guy who gave the lecture. Right? Said his wife married a computer. He's saying saying that he's a computer. Huh? No, Turing says it was his first academic assignment. So he was a young. I guess he had just graduated, and now he had his first job, working in a computer department of a university or the government. It could have been the government doing the research. It's not. I'm not sure who it is. So then it says. Now this is Turing. Now he comes in. He chimes in with some nonsense. He's setting up what's called a straw man argument. He says, the necessary condition for computers or robots to have a soul is that they be self-aware. They should be conscious. If this is not possible, then there would be no way we could think that devices with artificial intelligence had souls. Okay? So he's saying, Now he sets up the straw man argument. He says, theological objection. What is a theological objection? Advitya. Huh? What? What'd you say? What did you say, Advitya? Study of religion? Yes, say it. What's the theological objection? What's an objection? Okay, what's theological?
Study of religion.
Okay, so if you object to something, so it would be a religious person's objection. Objection means you don't accept what was said. Well, what was said? Turing says that the necessary condition for computers or robots to have a soul is that they have to be self-aware or conscious. If this is not possible, then there would be no way we could think that devices with artificial intelligence had souls. Right? So now he sets up the straw man argument with a theological objection. Now he's making this all up. Right? The theological objection is, thinking is a function of man's immortal soul. God has given an immortal soul to every man and woman, but not to any other animal or to machines. Hence, no animal or machine can think. What's wrong with this theological objection that he has set up here as a straw man argument. Well, first of all, what is a straw man argument, Advitya? Yes? Straw man argument. Speak into the microphone.
A cleverly made false argument meant to deceive.
Yes. Very good. Cleverly made false argument, meant to deceive. Meant to be knocked down easily. Meant to be rebutted easily. If you have a straw man, you can knock him over, right? You just blow it like that, and it'll fall over, right? So what's wrong with this? With what Turing said? Yes, Shasta. Yeah, and he's equating animals and machines here. So if the animal, he says animals don't have souls, and machines don't have souls. God didn't give the animals a soul. He didn't give a machine a soul. Yeah. Yeah, Christians say animals don't have soul. You can eat them, kill them, choke them to death. It's okay. It doesn't matter. They don't have souls. Okay. So now, the rebuttal to the objection. So there was a theological objection, right? Now there's the rebuttal to the objection. What does that mean? A rebuttal to the objection. Rebuttal. Krishna.
Rebuttal means refute the other person's argument.
Yes. Yes. You're going to refute. You're going to debunk.
Yeah.
You're going to destroy the other person's argument.
Yeah.
Right?
Then you're just going to destroy the argument you just made to prove a point.
Yeah.
That's
he's setting the whole thing up so he wins the argument.
Yes.
Right? He sets up a straw man argument. What's a straw man argument?
It's a clever argument that tries to deviate you to the wrong path. Or wrong
Okay,
thinking.
yeah, yes. It misleads you. It's misleading. He equated animals and machines. He says God did not give soul to animals and machines. He only gave it to human beings. Okay? Why does he say it's a theological argument? Because the Christians wrongly say that animals don't have a soul. But they don't equate machines with animals. But he brought that in. So now he set himself up to win the argument. Okay, so now the rebuttal. He says, this is Turing, it appears to me that the theological objection implies a serious restriction of the omnipotence of the Almighty. You see, he's using big language here, right? Now, what does that mean? Omnipotence of the Almighty. What's omnipotence? These are all Latin words. Omni and potens. These are Latin words. See how English is made up of many Latin and Greek words. And if you don't know Latin and Greek, you can't figure out the etymology or the history of these words. These are not English words. They're Latin or Greek words, right? So omni means all, and potency means power. So he says, it appears to me that your theological objection implies a serious restriction of the omnipotence of the Almighty. So what is the Almighty? God, right? The Almighty has all power, right? So he's saying he gave his soul. Your theological objection is he gave his soul to human beings, but didn't give it to animals or robots, right? And now the hero comes in, Turing, who set up this whole false thing, and he's saying, it seems to me that you're restricting God, the Almighty, by saying, right? You're restricting the omnipotence of God. He's making fun here. It's it's like sarcastic. Actually, it's ironic. Ironic means it's a little bit bad, and sarcastic means it's very bad, right? So he's very tempered in the way he speaks. He has control of his language. He's choosing his words carefully. So he says, it appears to me that the theological objection implies a serious restriction of the omnipotence of the Almighty. Now he's a defender of God. Although he's an atheist, see? But now he's acting like he's defending God, right? Then he says, it is admitted that there are certain things that he, meaning God, cannot do, such as making one equal to two. He cannot make the number 1 equal to the number 2. Is this true or false? Of course he can do that. Yeah, in fact, in 1 plus 1 equals 1, and 1 minus 1 equals 1. So he can also make 1 equal to 2 if he wants, right? So he talked about the omnipotence of God. Now he just limited God's omnipotence himself. He says, it is admitted. Admitted by who? By him, not by everybody else. It is admitted that there are certain things that he, meaning God, cannot do. Well, who's admitting that? Right? Only the atheists admit that, because they don't accept that God is omnipotent, that he has all power. That he cannot do such as making 1 equal to 2. But should we not believe that he has freedom to confer a soul on an elephant if he sees it fit? So, see, this is the way they talk all the time. They talk in ways that are difficult to understand. So he says, but should we not believe? In other words, should we not believe that he can give a soul to an elephant if he sees fit? Now, wait a minute. He already gave the soul to the elephant a long time ago, way before Turing came around, right? But, he's playing games, and they're very clever. These people are not stupid. They're extremely clever, but clever to mislead. They're great at misleading people, see? When you go to college, you're going to encounter this all the time. The teachers are going to speak like this. And you suddenly, just go along with it because you can't figure out, all the tricks that they're using. These are the tricks. Politicians use these same tricks. Philosophers use these tricks. Lawyers use these tricks. There's tricks of language. It's like recently, Robert Mueller gave his report after 2 years of investigation of President Trump. And in that report, he said clearly, there's no evidence of collusion, that Trump got the help of Putin and the Russians to defeat Hillary Clinton. That's called collusion. They worked together. Co-lusion. Again, this is the Latin word. Co means together, and illusion means, they talked or they planned or something like that. It's a collusion, right? So he said, there's no evidence that there was that. But, he said, we did receive at least 10 testimonies that pointed to Trump's attempt to obstruct justice. But we considered that it didn't come up to the threshold of a violation of law. Right? But that's only because we were not able to investigate enough. So now it's up to the Congress of the United States to investigate more to prove that he did obstruct justice. That's all phony. But the way he said it, he didn't say it like I said it. What I said you can understand. He used double negatives to confuse people. A double negative is when you say that we were not able to deny his collusion. Okay, now he used a double negative, not able and deny. What happens when you see a phrase with a double negative in it? Yes, Justin? It cancels out, right? So if he says we were not able to deny that he colluded, that means that we should be able to prove that he colluded. That's what he's saying. But we didn't have enough time. They spent 2 years and $30 million. They didn't have enough time? Of course they had enough time. They just didn't find enough evidence. That means there's not enough evidence. But no, they're keeping it. See, I don't want to confuse you, but I'm just giving you an example how people who are expert in the English language can confuse anyone. And lawyers and politicians and philosophers and scientists do this all the time. All the time. And you have to be an expert in the English language to decipher what they're saying. And most people can't, because even though this is an English-speaking country, kids study English. They don't study it enough to be able to figure out what these people are doing with the language. Okay? So there was a famous statement by Louis XIV. He was one of the greatest leaders of France. And he said, "Pour régner, il faut dissimuler." That's French. Which means, in order to rule people, you have to learn how to trick them. Dissimulate, it's the same word in English, dissimulation. It's a big word, but basically it means trick. So he says, in order to rule people, in order to dominate people, you have to know how to trick them. And how do you trick them? You trick them with language. So like, for example, in saying, so-and-so committed murder or genocide, you say, so-and-so simply transferred population from one place to another. Now, instead of using the word genocide, you say transfer of population. So transfer of population is a neutral statement, right? It's like, you imagine what it means is, he helped them go from one place to another. The only problem is, by the time they got to that place, they were all dead. So it's genocide. It's not transfer of population. But they used a neutral wording to mask the idea of genocide. So these are the kind of tricks that people play all the time. Politicians, lawyers, scientists, philosophers. They do these tricks of language so that you can't really figure out what they're talking about. Right? They put a spin on it, yeah. So, Turing here is an expert at it. He's an expert at it, He says, it is admitted that but when he says it's admitted by who? Who's admitting this? It is admitted that there are certain things that he, meaning God, cannot do, such as making 1 equal to 2. Who admitted that? Krishna can do anything he wants. He can make 1 equal to 2, or 2 equal to 1, or 2 equal to 0. He has unlimited powers. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shriyate. He has unlimited and incredible powers. But Turing now, he's doing exactly what he's blaming the theological objection. He's saying that God is almighty, but yet he can't make, because it's admitted, he can't make 1 equal to 2. That's a false argument, right? But should we not believe that he has freedom to confer a soul on an elephant if he sees fit? So he's saying he can't make 1 equal to 2, but if he wanted to, he could give the elephant a soul, right? So this is so clever. I mean, it's so misleading. And then he says, we might expect that he would only exercise this power in conjunction with a mutation which provided the elephant with an appropriately improved brain to minister to the needs of the soul. Now, see what he did here? Now he brought in Darwinism into the whole mix. He says God could have caused a mutation by which the element could develop higher intelligence and have a soul. Because he's equating a soul with the ability to think, right? So these are all false equations, false things. And so he's saying If he could give a soul to an elephant with a mutation, why can't he give a soul to the computer by another mutation? It's part of evolution. It's part of Darwinism. So there could be some mutation by which if the elephant got a soul, then the computer can get a soul also. You see, now, if I just read this to you, you wouldn't understand anything. But the fact that I'm explaining it, you're seeing what this man does. This man is extremely intelligent, extremely clever, and extremely misleading. No ordinary person is capable of doing this. He's got such education that he can completely fool you. Now, you know who also did this? Hitler. He was an expert at this, better than Turing. That's why he was able to convince 70 million people, 70 million people, to go to war and kill 50 million people. I think World War II, 55 million people died. And he was able to convince at least up to 70 million people, the German people, to unite, to go to war and make a killing machine. Because he was able to play games like this with the German language. And just like Turing just did now. So, and then it's entitled Alan Turing, Computing Machinery and Intelligence. In other words, this is what they're trying to do today. Microsoft, all these companies are working on artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? Yes, Krishna. It's basically yes. And if it thinks, they compute thinking with consciousness. Right? What did Turing say earlier? A necessary condition. What is a necessary condition? It's an Yes, Justin. Yes. A necessary condition for computers or robots to have a soul is that they be self-aware, be conscious. Now, see, he's cheating here also. A computer is never self-aware or conscious. A computer is programmed to make certain answers according to certain questions. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, for example, let's say you do a search on Google. You search baseball. Okay. Now, the computer will show you, a baseball. Is that what you were looking for? No, you wanted to find out about the sport, baseball. You didn't put sport, baseball. You just put baseball. So it shows you a baseball, right? Because that's what it's programmed to do. Okay, so let's say it shows you a baseball. It shows you baseball, game, and then it shows you a base and a ball. Right? You see, it's not programmed to figure out all the nuances of the English language. It's only whatever you put into it, that's all it will do. You see, it's not actually thinking. It's just automatically answering based on what has been input into the computer. It's not actually thinking. It looks like he's thinking, but he's not. It's not. So there are better examples. I was just trying to make that example right now. But one of your assignments for next week is find examples of mistakes computers make because they're not actually thinking. And there are many, many mistakes that they make. The search engine is artificial intelligence driven. Now, computers, they made a computer program that defeated Garry Kasparov in a chess game. Garry Kasparov was an Armenian guy who was the world champion in chess. And he was defeated by a computer. Look. Yeah, yes. So it's possible to do that because there's just a finite number of moves in a chess game. It's not an infinite number of moves. And if you input all the moves that are possible, then it's because a human being can make a mistake, but the computer, if the input is thorough enough, the computer won't make a mistake. It's a finite set of moves. So in that case, it's possible for a machine to defeat a human being, because the human being can make a mistake. But if the human being doesn't make a mistake, but understands the limitation of the computer, it can make moves that confuse the computer. It's possible. But you would have to know those moves. You have to be an expert in those things in which there is more than, let's say, more than 10 possibilities. And if they did not input all those 10 possibilities, it could confuse the computer and you could defeat it. But what they do is they put the computer against the top chess players in the world, and every time the computer loses, they figure out how he got beat, and then they correct it and they put more input into it because there are only a finite number of moves. So eventually they can make their program so perfect that the computer will not lose. If the person doesn't make a mistake, it will always be a draw. But if the person makes a mistake, then the computer wins, because it's a finite number of moves. You see, so it doesn't mean that the computer can think better than the human being. It just means that they put so much into the program that the computer was able to wear down the patience of the man. So actually, rather than trying to defeat computers, what the chess players should do is always have a draw. But, this human emotion that enters into it. The computer doesn't have any emotions, right? So if you get upset or you get nervous or you get tired, you can make a mistake and the computer will win. Okay. So, our lesson today is in deceptive argument and language. Deceptive argument and language. This is the way people win debates and convince other people to do nonsense things, because they're experts at deceptive argument, deceptive language and argument. Okay. So, I'm going to give you a copy of this. This is this very short discussion that Turing has. And I want you to write down all the deceptive things in it. Now, you going to do your homework, Krishna? How about you, Augustine? How about you, Advidya? Okay, that's good enough. How about you, Arush? Huh? Maybe. That's an American rock song. Maybe, baby. No, come on, you have to do it. Okay. And Shivani, you're going to do it. And Ria, you try. Huh? We're gonna print this out, and you can take it home, and you study it, and you point out everything that's wrong in Turing's straw man argument, the way he sets the whole thing up. Right. Okay. Yeah. Are you going to India? Today? Wow. Well, have a safe trip. Where are you going to go? Where? Mumbai. You're going to stay in Mumbai? Is that where your relatives are? Pune? Okay, good. How long are you going to be there? 3 weeks. Oh, so you'll be back for Ananda Mela. Good. Okay. Okay, so now let's go over the homework that was for today. We studied the first of 6 assumptions on which modern science is based. Right? Okay. So, who did their homework? Shrestha did. Did you do your homework? Yes. Okay. Well, let's hear what Shrestha wrote. Explain how the first scientific assumption in the sheet given is incorrect. So everyone has that sheet of assumption. You have that sheet, Shivani? No. Okay. What? Okay, your dad, can you print that out? That sheet, the 6 assumptions. Yeah, I only have 1. I don't have any left. Oh, no. Here. Wait a minute. Here. I have it. That's all right. You don't have to print it out. I have more. You want one? Who doesn't have one? Hey, wait a minute. Take another one for your brother. And you get one. And, wow, just enough. How about that? These are the 6 assumptions that scientists have. Okay, go ahead.
So, in this article, the author states the base assumptions which modern science is based on. The first assumption is that nature is orderly, and the laws of nature describe that order. Here's what the author says. When we speak of
Here's what the article says.
what the article says. When we speak of the orderliness of nature, we speak in terms of regularity, pattern, and structure.
Okay, regularity, pattern, and structure. When you use the scientific method for research, the scientific method is based on observation, inference, and hypothesis, right? Or just basically observation, then hypothesis. So if you observe every day at 7:30 in the morning, a squirrel comes to your yard and looks for something to eat, then you can assume that because you kept a journal, and every day for 1 month he came exactly at the same time. So then you can make an assumption, you can make a hypothetical, let's say, guess that he'll continue forever to come at 7:30 in the morning, unless it dies or something, right? Yeah. So you made a long series of observations, you saw a pattern, and now you make a hypothetical, or you make a hypothesis. A hypothesis means something, it's a pattern or a model that you've noticed in nature. And it doesn't become a law yet, but it's the precursor of a law. Okay, go ahead.
For example, when we look at a herd of wildebeest...
So there's regularity, there's pattern, and there's structure, right?
For example, when we look at a herd of wildebeest migrating, we see...
What is a wildebeest? And why don't somebody look up on the internet? Let's see a picture of a wildebeest.
It's like a...
What? A mini buffalo, yeah.
Yeah.
Yesterday I said it looks something like a deer. But
Yeah.
Wildebeest. Go ahead.
We assume that it's not just random behavior.
We justify this assumption through observation by noting the patterns of behavior, the structure of the herd, etc., and thereby come to conclusions explaining their behavior. The same applies to other natural phenomena. Before Newton's law was formulated, the motions of the planets were unexplained. We knew they were moving in specific patterns, but we didn't know why. Newton unraveled the mystery by making an assumption. He assumed that gravity would hold true not just here, but elsewhere too. A universal law that applied everywhere. Of course, we haven't seen every single star in the universe or every planet, but Newton's law have held true at every single star we have observed.
Newton's law should be, the English should be has held.
Yeah,
Not
has
have.
held true at every single star we have observed, in every single test we have devised. So we can safely assume that Newton's law is universal. So nature is orderly as explained by the assumption.
Now this is questionable. Like, for example, when Lord Rama built the bridge from Rameswaram to Lanka, he made gigantic boulders float. So that's a violation of the law of gravity.
Yeah.
If you throw a pin on a pond, it might float instead of go down. Why? Because there is tension on the surface tension. So that's another violation of the law of gravity. But there's a reason for it, right? But there was no reason for those boulders to float. No material reason, but other than the fact that Rama's name and Rama's potency made them float. He violated the law of gravity. Right? He's the person who made the law of gravity, so he can violate it if he wants. So anyway, Newton is assuming that the law of gravity is functioning everywhere in the universe.
But
it's a universal law. It's not exactly true, but according to the limited observation of human beings, it seems to be true. Go ahead.
Nature is orderly as explained by the assumption stated above. However, the way that the scientists prove that nature is orderly is wrong, as it has two main flaws. First of all, the scientists use inductive reasoning with selective evidence to prove these laws, but call them universal.
Okay, explain what selective evidence is.
Well, selective evidence is basically where it's cherry picking. So you pick the evidence which
Cherry
is
pick.
favorable.
Right. What's cherry pick mean?
You pick the evidence which is favorable, or you pick something that...
Yeah, and what happens if you see some evidence that will not support your thesis?
You forget about it.
If you ignore it.
Yeah.
That's why it's selective evidence.
Yeah.
You're not choosing all the evidence. You're only choosing evidence that seems to support your point. And if there's something that doesn't support it, you just ignore it.
Yeah.
Is that scientific?
No.
No, that's cheating.
Yeah. So the scientists use inductive reasoning with selective evidence to prove these laws, but call them universal, while in actuality there are innumerable laws and energies that govern and maintain the universe. The universe is very complex, and as humans we are very limited. The laws that we have discovered may be true, but they are limited to certain spheres of reference, and there are infinite amount of laws which we do not even know of.
Very good.
This is because of our process of research. Inductive reasoning is the process of making broad generalizations through small, limited experiments. This process is faulty because what applies to a small group might not apply to the entire universe. Additionally, the entire scientific assumptions are based on selective evidence, which is the practice of coming up with conclusions through evidence that is favorable, not necessarily correct. Here is an example of a limited law which has been stated as universal due to selective evidence, Newton's law of gravity. Newton's law of gravity has been observed as universal because scientists have found favorable research which proves that the law works. They have tested the law on a limited number of celestial bodies and have decided through inductive reasoning that since gravity applies to a certain number of celestial bodies, that it applies to the rest of the universe. However, quite recently it has been discovered that Newton's laws are limited because they do not apply to the quantum realm and objects which move at the speed of light. Hence, the scientists have created limited laws, and through ignorance have failed to understand that there are innumerable energies and laws which control the universe. The second flaw of the process of the scientists is that they ignore the fact that there is a lawmaker behind everything. Logically, every law needs to have a lawmaker behind it. The scientists think that the universe was created by the Big Bang, but that idea is incorrect. Order cannot be the effect of destruction. Hence, behind the creation and maintenance of the universe is an all-intelligent personality, or Krishna. As per Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, first verse, Lord Sri Krishna is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes.
Good. So, if I was, I'll play the devil's advocate. What does that mean, the devil's advocate? Write it down, devil's advocate. DEVIL''S''AVOCATE. Basically, it means someone who supports the devil's point of view. The devil meaning the atheists. Devil's advocate. Advocate is like a person, he's a pleader, like a lawyer. He pleads the case for his client. But in this case, it's the devil himself. So I'm the devil's lawyer, right? So I can look at what you just wrote. Now I'm going to ask you some questions, okay, as the devil's advocate. Okay, Newton has 3 laws of motion, right? And in those laws, everyone knew that they could see through observation that the planets were moving in specific ways. They were not randomly moving. But they didn't understand why. Yeah, because if you say God is doing it, then they'll say that's not scientific. So what did Newton do? He says it's due to the law of gravity. What is the law of gravity? This is your homework. Look it up. The materialistic law of gravity. Next week I'll explain what Prabhupada says is gravity. And as we have said before, there are only 2 laws or 2 types of energy that the scientists have really studied and understood. There's gravity and electromagnetism. And
Weak and strong.
huh? Weak and strong. So there's like 4, 2 expanded into 4, right? But that's all they've studied. So now, and gravity they don't really understand. Electromagnetism, they understand it somewhat. But they use gravity a lot. You know, Hawking's used it a lot also so in other words, they use the law of gravity. Now, Sanskrit is going to confirm if what I say is true or false. You know. They used the law of gravity to prove that after the Big Bang, by the law of gravity, things came back together and coalesced and became ordered. Is that right? Yeah. See? So, you see, they're very clever people. It's not that, so here you said, that you can't have order from a destruction, right? But they'll say, yes, you can, because of the law of gravity. They don't say how. They just say you can.
But also, we also studied thermodynamics.
Yes.
Where the
talk about
laws
entropy.
The laws of thermodynamics state that it's basically impossible that once something is destructed, that it can't be put back together.
They say it's a natural state in nature that the entropy increases. In other words, the disorder increases.
Yes. So from the Big Bang.
But see, they'll say that's in a closed system. The fact that they add that, they're cheating there. They say in a closed system. That means that if you have an open system, then the laws of gravity will come into play. The law of gravity will come into play, and it can decrease the entropy. These are smart people. They're not dumb people, right? So they're using this word gravity. Actually, it's God, but they're using the word gravity, which means there's not a person behind it. It's just the law of nature. So I'm not trying to defeat. I'm telling you, I'm trying to be the devil's advocate now, right? Taking their side and trying to poke holes into what you wrote. I'm not saying what you wrote is wrong, but this is what they do.
Shut up.
Sanskrit is going to sing.
Yeah. I did it.
It will fall down.
That's not hard. That's nonsense. Like this. It's complicated. Thank you. That's why I asked you. Just start singing. Okay. Play the fastest thing you know that you can play properly, not like. Yeah, it works. Okay, just start singing. Wait till it stops.
No, they won't stop until like you start.
Oh,
And you
and you
start.
have to follow me, okay?
Yes.
Wait, but they do stop usually.
I know. I just start saying.
Oh, okay.
Yashomati Nandana Brajbaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana. Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Kaliya Dhamana Vedana. Amala Harina Mamiya Vilasa Vipinapur Sanavina Nagara Para Amala Harina Mamiya Vilasa Vipinapur Vamsi Badana Suvasa Vajjana Palana Surakula Nashana Nanda Godhana Rakhavala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundara Nanda Gopala Yamuna Tata Chara Gopi Basana Hara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Bhakti Vinodashaya Yashomati Nandana Vrajvara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yashomati Nandana Vrajvara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe. Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jaya Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotra Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaja Prabhupada Ki Jaya Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotra Sata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridasa Thakur Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Radha Neela Madhav Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Brihad Vridanga Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Pramande Haribol. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Hello, Krishna.
Hare Krishna. What?
Sorry.
Okay, so you have your homework now. You're going to analyze this speech by Alan Turing and point out all the fallacies, all the mistakes in it, and all the tricks of language that he's using to mislead and establish an untruth to be truth. Yes. To win it, and you have to explain what the straw man argument is. What are the misleading and false statements that he makes, and how he makes something untrue appear true. Okay. Okay? So, anyway, now we're going to continue to hear Shesta's homework presentation. You finished it? Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, I was gonna be the devil's advocate, right? Okay. So my first point. Okay, you say there's two main flaws in the way scientists prove that nature is orderly. Okay, first very good point you make is that they use inductive reasoning and practice selective evidence to prove what? To prove that gravity is a universal law in nature, right?
Yeah.
Because Newton made the assumption that gravity would hold true not just here but everywhere else, but elsewhere too.
Yeah.
Okay. So your point is that you're showing the limitations of inductive reasoning. And no one will argue with that. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Prabhupada says you might have, 10 years of evidence to prove this, prove that that there's a pattern. But all you need to find is one example that violates your law, and then it's no longer a law, right? That's the problem. And also, they don't analyze every circumstance, so they just take usually a small sampling, and then they see some pattern, and they say it's a law. So now, as far as Newton's law of gravity, is it that at microscopic or small particles at the speed of light, is it in that situation that gravity doesn't work? The law of gravity doesn't work? Or is it something else that does? That's something else that, see, okay, go ahead, you say.
Well, it's, at least for the quantum realm, it's not just gravity, it's all of Newton's laws that don't apply, because the quantum realm deals with very small.
Yeah.
It's the study of very small objects, so it doesn't apply to them. Because Newton studied celestial bodies, which are really big objects like planets, and then he concluded that it's a universal law, but it doesn't apply to very small objects.
Okay. So in other words, are you implying that there's no gravity when there's microscopic bodies moving at the speed of light? That's my question. I mean, I don't know, but I'm asking you a question. It doesn't? So the law of gravity doesn't work when there's microscopic particles like
Yeah.
atoms going at the speed of light?
Yeah.
Okay. You remember when we studied the Big Bang, it said that in the beginning, right after the Big Bang took place, particles were moving faster than the speed of light, and that violates Einstein's assumption that the speed of light is the fastest speed at which any body can move. So that's one problem with the Big Bang theory, that it violates the Einstein's, let's say, insistence that the speed of light is the fastest thing in the universe.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question we have to look up is, just to double check, is the idea that law of gravity is a universal law everywhere. And when you get down to microscopic bodies, like atoms and molecules and things going at the speed of light, is it a fact that the law of gravity no longer governs the movements of those bodies?
So double check that.
Yeah. Okay. Because there's one example when Lord Ramachandra floated those gigantic boulders that weighed many, many tons, and they stayed afloat. Now, today that bridge is still there, but it's sunk. You can go on the internet and you see a NASA's photograph from space, and they show you there's this bridge, but it's underwater now. It's sunk. All those rocks are still there between Rameshwaram and Lanka. Okay, so homework 1 is you're going to analyze Turing's speech and show all the mistakes and misleading techniques that he uses. Now, we only studied so far the first assumption that science makes about nature. The second assumption is that we can know nature. We assume that we can learn about nature and natural law through observing it. This might seem self-evident, but it isn't. Until you make the logical assumption that you can learn about something by observing it, you can't begin to reason about it. Once again, we're assuming that something is universally true. If I can learn about wildebeest by observing them, can I also learn about, say, the past by looking at the ruins of an ancient city? We assume that we can, and so we do it. And thus far, it's yielded very good results. Well, in order to understand all this, you have to study what's called the branch of philosophy, which is epistemology. Anybody remember this? Because we went over this 1 year ago. So Shivani, can you tell us what Okay. Great. Okay. Anybody remember? Krishna, Agastya, Arush. Huh?
If you say the things from it, then I'll remember.
Okay. You remember anything? It's just, you remember anything? No? Ria? Do you remember your name? Yeah. Okay, so epistemology means the science of how you know if something is true or false. It's not the science, but it's the study of how you know if something is true or false. You want to write this down? Epistemology. E-P-I-S-T. 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 Krishna, did you write something? Here, take this pen back. No, it's never over. It's eternal. In fact, this summer, if you want, we'll continue every morning.
Wait, is there going to be summer class?
Yeah, every morning at 6:30.
Huh?
6:30, yeah. So it doesn't interfere with the rest of the day. Is that right, Shesta? 6:30? Arush, did you hear that? Can you get up at 6:30? No? Why not? What time do you go to sleep? What? It's too late. You have to go. What? You go to sleep at 12 o'clock at night? You do? It's too late. No, it's too late. You have to go to sleep 9 o'clock at the latest. I'd go see what time you goes. What? 10. No, it's too late. You have to go to sleep at 9 o'clock.
Usually after homework.
But this is summertime. You don't have any homework.
In summer, right? Okay.
Yeah, you have no excuse.
But then, okay, yeah, sure. Why not?
Well, because Shrestha has some other things that she has to do. What about 10? What about never? No, you get up at 6:30. Be here at 6:30. What?
I get up at 7.
If you take rest at 9, you'll easily wake up and be here at 6:30.
Oh, okay.
It's summertime. You don't have no homework,
Yeah, that's good.
right?
Then I'll be done.
Study what?
She loves studying.
Yeah, you're going to study Srimad Bhagavatam. You can do it if you want. Anyway, epistemology, E-P-I-S-T-E-M-O-L-O-G-Y. E-P-I-S-T-E-M-O-L-O-G-Y. It means, how do you know if something is true or false? That's what epistemology is. Okay? So your homework is to read the introduction to the Ishopanishad, where Prabhupada explains the science of epistemology, or the philosophy. It's the first thing you study when you study philosophy. You have to be able to determine what's true or false. In fact, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he says that he says everything in the first canto, first chapter, first verse of Bhagavatam. Everything that we're studying, he says in this one verse. He says that he says, Oh, I'm sorry. It's the second verse. Yeah. He says that the highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Write this down. The highest truth is reality. The highest truth is reality. Reality. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion. Distinguished. distinguished. From illusion. illusion. For the welfare of all. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Okay? So, epistemology is the branch of knowledge by which you can determine if something is true or false. Okay? Okay. Now, there are different criterions or different ways of doing that. First of all, there's something called pramana, Pramana, in Sanskrit. Pramanas are ways of proof, means of proof. So you have, and you know what this is, as soon as I say it, you'll recognize it. Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Sabda. Right? These are three pramanas, ways to prove if something is true or false. So, Pratyaksha means see, direct observation. Anumana means? Yeah, Anumana is basically inductive reason. Right? Inductive. If you see smoke, then you can assume that there is fire. It's called that's the Anumana. And then Sabda, based on a perfect source of knowledge, like the Vedas. Right? You just receive knowledge from a perfect source. Okay, and then there are subdivisions of these three things, such as Arthapati, Anupalabdhi. You don't have to learn these. The Sabda, of course, and Upamana. There's some other, categories, but these three are the main categories. Everything else is a subcategory of these three things. Okay, so that's just an introduction. Now, the first thing that we learn in epistemology, or the science, or to understand if something is true or false, is that every human being has 4 defects. What are they? Samskriti. Huh? Arush, go ahead. What else? What are the 4? Say it out loud. Yes, easily illusion, yeah. 2, make mistakes. Senses are limited, and we have cheating propensity. Okay? So, if you look at what Turing wrote. Okay. And you use these 4 defects knowledge, you should be able to figure out everything that he says that's false, or defeat his false statements. Okay? So what does it prove? What does it prove when every human being has these 4 defects? What does it point to? It points to the fact that simply using reason and logic and observation, they will not understand what the truth is. They might understand some part of the truth, but not the whole truth. And they'll make many mistakes also. This is the problem with modern science. It's based on observation, right? So pratyaksha will not give you complete knowledge, because there's many things that you don't see with the human eye. Or even if you use a microscope, or if you use a telescope, you're not going to see everything, because human vision is limited, even with the help of microscopes and telescopes. And we all make mistakes, and we're easily illusioned, and our senses are limited, and we have a cheating propensity. Selective evidence is cheating, actually. Okay? So, I want you to read the introduction to Ishopanishad, where Prabhupada gives the full explanation of Vedic epistemology. What does epistemology mean, Krishna?
Epistemology means determining from true and false.
For the welfare of all.
For the welfare
Of everyone. See, people like Hitler and others, they determine what is true and false only for their people's welfare, not for everybody's welfare. So that's not real benevolence or real charity. It's selective. Right? But when you can differentiate between reality and illusion for the welfare of all, now you've become a real philosopher and a real benevolent person. Okay? All right, so now you have 2 homeworks. You're going to analyze Turing's statements and show all the false things in it and the techniques by which he wins an argument by setting up a straw man argument. Okay? If you learn this, then you'll never be fooled by politicians, lawyers, scientists, and philosophers, because this is the tricks that they use to mislead people. Okay? Yes? Yeah, just read the introduction. Because that's Prabhupada explaining in a very complete way Vedic Vaishnava epistemology. Okay, we'll stop right there. You have any questions? And also, we have not covered the 6 assumptions of the scientists. So you want to read the 6 assumptions also as homework, because we're going to go over all of them next week. When is school over?
June 21.
June what?
Mine is over this Thursday.
Yours is over? June 21st is mine.
I'm going to India.
21st.
Lake Washington is the 22nd and December is 22nd.
Mine's 21st.
I'm going to
Okay, well, so then our summer school will start in July, the 1st of July.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be gone in August.
Yes, Arush. Second homework is to read the Ishopanishad introduction and also read the 6 assumptions of material scientists. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Haribol. Thank you very much. All glories to Prabhupada.